Good afternoon or good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's presentation entitled From Estimate to Execution, Connecting Precon to Finance for More Profitable Projects. By the end of today's presentation, you'll understand how project estimates represent the first part of a fully informed financial construction project plan. You'll understand where disconnected systems introduce additional risk, and you'll understand what fully integrated bid to budget project workflows can look like. I'm Brian Terrell, the managing partner of the B. Terrell Group of Companies, which includes Ledgerable, a B. Terrell company where we're in our 35th year of upgrading small and mid-sized general and specialty contractors from QuickBooks or a legacy on-premises construction financial application to Sage Intacct Construction, the only accounting application ever named by the AICPA as their preferred provider of financial applications. On the next slide, you'll see I'm joined today by Mike Roy and Jared Wasilewski. Both Mike and Jared have many years of experience with construction and real estate technology in general and Sage Intacct Construction specifically. Before Mike and Jared get started, my next slide leads me to share a few housekeeping items. Today's presentation qualifies for an hour of CPE credit, and to award that, the Texas State Board of Public Accountancy requires two things of us. Number one, that we verify attendance during the presentation, and number two, that we survey our attendees after the presentation. It's simple. We depend on you to accomplish those two goals. And so we're asking you, please respond to the polling questions that will pop up from time to time. And please complete our post-webinar evaluation form, which will be sent to you via electronic mail tomorrow. As a B. Terrell company, Ledgerable presentations qualify for continuing professional education as long as we check those two boxes. Now, what will those polling questions look like, and how should you respond? Here's an example. On the next slide, you'll see this appear on the PowerPoint screen, and then that window will pop up from Zoom, giving you about 20 or 30 seconds. This one looks like it's unimportant, but it's really one of the most important questions, so please answer it correctly. Do you need CPE credit? If by checking yes, you set our expectations for who in today's audience will be expecting that CPE certificate once these polling questions are answered and once that post-webinar evaluation form is completed. Once again, your goal is just to answer the question in 20 to 30 seconds or so, allowing us to quickly move on to the rest of our presentation. One more slide of housekeeping items. The next slide where I would like to mention that we've disabled both audio and video for all attendees at today's presentation. But please know we welcome your questions. Jared and Mike will be available to answer those questions at the end of the presentation. All you have to do is click on the Q&A button on that Zoom toolbar. And then one more point, and I'll turn it over to Jared and Mike. We're recording today's presentation, and we'll send you a link to that recording within 5 business days. Use that link to review the highlights in today's presentation, to share those highlights with colleagues in your organization who were unable to join us today. And then as you're at the CFMA chapter meeting or in other industry events, share it with peers who were unable to join us today. That wraps up all of our housekeeping items. So let me turn it over to Jared and Mike. Guys?
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. And Mike, I don't know if you want to start kind of going through some of the slides, and I'll be adding a little, like I said, character to it as we go throughout the presentation.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, and welcome everybody. We're really excited today. For me, I've been spending last 20 plus years with vertical software. A lot of that time is spent in the construction vertical. But one of the things I get really excited about when discussing software, because it can tend to be, one of those boring subjects or things people feel like they have to use, is that a lot of the connectivity that's available now, where in the past there's a lot of, download, uploads, things that end up having small impacts that amplify over time when there's missed data and um, what for today, what we're going to really look forward to and talk through is just that disconnect inside of the pre-construction, the financials of a firm, and how companies on the front end of this are solving it. Namely, some of the things that we're doing here at Stack, why we're looking to solve that problem, and ultimately how we're accomplishing that with our technologies today. So we're really, really excited to talk through that. And if you all have any questions, there'll be, feel free to just, as Brian said, chat in. We'll get through some of them as we're going, and then we'll open it up at the end to double click on anything. So with that, Jared, we'll jump right in.
Mhm.
Um,
Absolutely.
So for me, a little background. I came into the pre-construction world roughly, going on 3 years ago. And so, I'd spent most of my career in the insurance risk management side. So I was more on the safety side of things when it came to construction. And what was so interesting to me about pre-construction is the science behind it, right? And it's there's a lot of creativity, a lot of uniqueness that goes into um, proposing and bidding on a project. And then the complexities of commercial bidding and how you have to not only win a bid, but then go execute on that. And my favorite line from when one of the first conferences I ever went to was that, somebody who was leading their pre-construction team, larger GC, said the scariest thing for an estimator isn't losing a bid, it's winning the bid, because now they need to ensure the profitability of that bid. And that always stuck with me. And so for me, when we looked at how do we take a pre-construction software like Stack and how do we really amplify it and make it work for innovative organizations, for growing organizations, it's how do we take that foundational estimate and secure it to the financial side of the equation. So that's really part of our DNA in the backbone of how we look at the world. Um, We'll go to the next slide, Jared.
Yeah, and even if I can, one
Oh,
thing I
sorry.
always like to add on this on this slide is again, we're going to kind of show a little bit of that workflow, but every time you look into this tech side of things, a lot of people start off and get off of a QuickBooks really quickly, and they get onto something like a powerful system like Intact, right? But yet they remain these large firms who are staying on like the equivalent of QuickBooks like Excel, and they're not putting their best foot forward. And as much as I know I'm going to get a little shade for saying this, accounting's fantastic. You can count every project that we're getting, any sort of revenue, any P&L, all of that. But if you're not getting the jobs, you're not getting the putting your best foot forward in the estimate, the company's not going to make it anymore because you're not getting those work. So I'm really excited to show you all kind of what on the estimating side this is going to have such an impact with. So on to the next slide.
Yeah, and this is that scope creep part of the conversation. It's really interesting to me is and disconnect's probably the wrong framing here, but the siloing of the pre-construction process and the accounting process. I think everybody has the same goal in mind, right? They want to deliver a on target, on budget, high quality project. But the scope creep is typically not, it's kind of, it's unintended consequences of disconnected systems. And what I mean by that is, anytime you introduce a step in a process that requires interpretation, it requires keying in data, there is just a inevitability that you will, like, something will break. And I think there's a statistic rolling around the internet, so you can, Google it or put in your chat GPT, that 90%, if not maybe more, Excel workbooks have errors in them. And that's probably like, anybody on this call is probably rolling their eyes going, of course they do. That's, it's part of Excel. There's errors and we're always trying to clean it up. But again, understanding a little bit of the art and science with pre-construction, it's super, super important being able to translate that over to the accounting side. Make sure there's synchronicity between those two systems, because when you eliminate the data errors, you open up more of the conversation around value engineering and, why did we do something, instead of trying to figure out how we got to a number. So for me, there's like an amplification of integrations, where it's not just about like, let's put a stopwatch on how long does it take to download and upload something into a system or reformat. Right? That's not as exciting to me as having everybody reading off the same sheet of music, so that the conversation's more about the project itself, and less about the data integrity in there. When you have that trust layer built into the data integrity, we've seen a lot of organizations just accelerate that collaboration.
Yeah, I mean, that's an awesome call out. I think that this, knowing that scope, having that clear understanding is, I mean, a perfect way into collaborating into basically all the closeout stages, everything that's around the estimate. So that's an awesome call out, Mike.
Yeah. No, and I think, again, in this world where there's a lot of evolution happening, I'll say on the flip side, there's a lot of change management that has to occur to adapt software or adopt software. And it's one of the things that, because we have two sides of an organization that are both trying to, they look at, a problem slightly differently when you're, on the finance side versus the pre-construction side. It's and it's like this anywhere in any company. We at Stack, we have, a lot of different divisions in the company. I run our sales and account management teams, and we have, marketing teams, and we have product teams, and being able to collaborate between everybody. That's one of the most important functions to help scale a business. And so we take that internal practice that we all do at Stack, and look at it from that lens for the people we're trying to help, of how can we make the technology work for both people? Because the change management right now that's going on in the construction space, it's exciting. There's a lot of people willing to leave their safety net of Excel and adopt software. And the value you get to that is that you can create consistency, and that consistency breeds collaboration, and collaboration allows you to, scale and be a lot more efficient. So it's just really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much technology as well in those advancing spaces, between even the collaboration, having multiple estimators inside of a project. Maybe one is focusing on one type of division, another is focusing on another, but having a lot of all of that data even translate to other areas, or even to something like an integrated other system. I mean, it's just a game changer for it. And we'll show a lot of that kind of next AI side of things too, when we get into the demonstration.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good lead up, Jared. I wasn't sure, with Stack, we don't have any like official release on this, but it is more just kind of the ground shifting underneath everybody in software today, is that you'll see a lot of organizations talking about AI, and which is fantastic, right? There's a lot of really innovative things happening out there, from legacy companies to new emerging companies. But for those of you who are currently using Claude or Chat GPT or any of the large language models that exist, there is a kind of a new way of operating inside of software, which is you can extract information from these AI systems, and which is just really fun. It's really like on the personal side of my life, I love technology. I talk to Jared all the time. Him and I have this shared interest of smart homes. So if anybody on this call ever wants to learn about smart homes, just call us up. We will talk your ear off about that. But uh, why, like how I connect this to Stack and the ERP space in general is that there's a there's a like kind of a leapfrog moment happening here with AI, and you have to foundationally be adopting software that unlocks that new way of interacting with things. So again, it's my big push. I love Excel. I use it every single day. But I am finding more often that I am starting to use AI, and the systems that have strong foundational characteristics and integrations allow me to be super powered by the AI models that are out there. So it's again, another call to action of like there's so much happening in the world of technology outside of just even construction that being able to have strong foundational software that not only can impact you today, but is also innovative and looking at that future. Those are the kind of things that are going to be extremely valuable for your organization. Not just the fact you can, in our world, the fact that you can estimate or there's cost tracking and platform integrations. Those are great things. We love talking about it, but there's also this, where's the world going in the next 3 to 5 years? And is the technology you're investing in paying attention to that?
Mhm. Yeah, this is a good thing that I'm so pumped for because I remember the day when I was a younger kid, probably 10 years old. I used to go to a trade show with my dad about construction, and he would show us the way of doing it by paper and pencil. That's how everyone's done it for many years. And when the digitizer came out, it revolutionized everything. It was a game changer for so many firms. And then when they came out with on screen or over like basically uploading your plans and clicking through it, basically digital takeoff. Again, that took it to the next tier. And I think with a lot of this AI stuff, we're at that plus tenfold almost. We're at this totally industry changing area, and I'm super excited to be a part of it.
Mhm. The yeah, again, this goes back to my my siloing comment is that a estimate, it's half art, half science, right? There are there's a bunch of data in there, and that's awesome. But there's methodologies in there. There's reasoning that's going on in there, and I think and for those of you who are not on the estimating side, you're maybe on the financial side. That's why a lot of your estimators never want to leave their software. And those on the estimating side, there's always, Excel and systems like that they're hard to change because they're so flexible and they're infinitely flexible. You can do so much. Um, but because of how foundational an estimate is, the when you're looking at software, it's this trade-off of there's some rigidity to it, but that rigidity is what allows you to scale. And it's always my biggest thing when we're talking to firms about adopting estimating software is to accept that the purpose of software, just like an ERP, is to create rules, to create rigidity, to create repeatable processes. Because when you have that extremely strong foundation, the heights you can build it on are just endless, and that does take. It's part of that little change management I hinted on before. Is that it takes that first part of I need to be able to be okay changing and okay adopting with a new process, so that we can build in the right methodologies and the right way to build that foundational data layer that can be exposed not only to integrated systems, but for the team that's using it today.
Mhm.
All right, we got our first question here. According to the presentation, what does the construction estimate become after a project is awarded?
Um, we can kind of jump to the next one here. So one of the things too, when we're kind of going through even that polling question, um, there's so many areas I think that we get by in today's day and age when it comes to estimating that we're just not really factoring into disconnected data, whether that is I want to run an estimate versus an actual. I want to um, spend, time more on the takeoff side as opposed to uploading. I see this all the time, especially when it comes into here, and it's going to be really cool when we start to get to the point where we're taking that actual cost directly from your financial system and we're reviewing that and being able to see some stuff inside maybe your takeoff or your estimating front to really get those numbers a lot more accurate on that phone.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll go to the we can go through these next two slides pretty quick here.
Yep.
The and this is just illustrating the point I was making prior of, that handoff, even though it looks simple, right? Export, reformat, import. If you go to the next slide, that portion of the Excel and the PDFs, that's where the risk occurs. And that's just and there's almost a not consistency, but just an acceptance of that risk. And that's part of breaking that change management today, that we don't have to accept that risk. That risk can be mitigated with software, with connected systems. And again, SAC has roughly 7,000 customers that who have made that switch today, and that it's really exciting to watch those organizations be able to scale and have confidence in their estimate and their pre-construction process.
Mhm. Yeah, it's funny, real quick side note. Mike and I were actually talking about this slide earlier today, and I think it's crazy the amount of times that I've gone into different customer sites, connected with them, and just talked through, hey, have you ever made a mistake on a spreadsheet? You ever put one too many zeros, right? What's the cost to you? And it's unanimously like, oh, all the time. And it's crazy that it's normalized in some fact that you could cost a job 250 grand just by one small entering in of a number or not enough numbers. You know what I mean? It's the difference between we've won that job or yep, we're in some hot waters. So definitely to Mike's point, like this is a massive thing that I don't think should ever be normalized. Excel is great, but when we get to that kind of side of things, it's not what I want to be normal.
100%. And kind of double clicking into that cost of disconnected workflows, it's not just, you could argue it's that whole time of setting up a bid, but as soon as the project is in handoff phase, we always hear about it. There's the lost time on the other side, right? We're scrambling to go back and look at all the different versionings in there. Where did all these numbers come from? What were the items used? Were they scoped out properly? The financial, and which leads in obviously to the financial risk. Again, if we're not updating those systems with any sort of regularity and we're trusting people, which again, it's a not a weird concept, but there are folks that we work with that have been estimating for 20, 30 years and they know it better than the spreadsheet, but it's how do they help everybody else know that information? Right? Because at some point they need to, bring on new people. They need to help scale the business, and then ultimately, there's the sunk cost and the profitability side. Because when you can't accurately forecast, your margins erode. That's real impact for the business. Oh, there we go. Sorry, skipping ahead there, Jerry.
Yeah, you're good. I'll get right to the poll. Awesome.
All right, so we'll get into kind of just the way it operates with Stack. So, Jared, you can fill in anything that I breeze over because I know there's a lot of really valuable components of our integration. But from a very simple standpoint, it's estimate to actuals, right? How do we make sure we have consistency through that workflow? And how that looks for Stack and the ERPs is that um, within Stack itself, we are a takeoff and estimating platform. And we're one of the only systems that integrates both of those together. And I do like to slow down on that a little bit because there's some nomenclature in pre-construction that takeoff is estimating. And sometimes those things get mixed up, um, which is not false. It just like people describe it differently. Um, there are systems that are very good at takeoff, and there are systems that are very good at estimating. There are very few cloud-based AI-powered takeoff and estimating platforms, and that is what makes Stack special. And because of that infrastructure that we've set up, it allows for that real-time synchronization between the pre-construction side of the house and the finance side of the house through our ERP integrations with Sage Intacct and 300. It eliminates the duplicate work, better forecasting, better reporting, just overall analytics being able to be improved because we create that standardization on the pre-construction end. And then we've built that into our system, which we then can transfer into other systems. So all of that handoff work that's normally done when somebody's, has they have a takeoff software and then they have an estimating software or a Excel software. It's like all of those handoffs are basically eliminated with our platform, which then can then connect into the ERP space.
Yeah, I mean, this might be one of to me, the most fun things to demo anytime we are showing any of the accountants on the call. Um, the data going just from, you know, your takeoff platform to your accounting system, because you do have that single source of truth that you want to have. Obviously, a lot of that is going to be in your Sage Intacct. And so when we show it, it is a easy 5 minute little thing, just showing this quick workflow. But the impact of that is so dramatic, if you will, because I see all the times it takes someone, 10 hours plus the project to enter this in and get all of the data up and going and make sure that it's coded out correctly, make sure the project's set up correctly. It's when it's something as simple of a button and it's over there. I mean, it's just, yep, next step, we want this, whatever you need. You know what I mean? So.
Love it. I love it. Now with the way to think of Stack, because again, there are different organizations that you all represent. Really, there's three fundamental components of the Stack platform. It's the fact that we have document management, quantity and material takeoff, and detailed estimates and proposals. That's really the three ways to think of the platform. Another way to think about this is that there are many organizations that have three separate softwares for each of these. Not connected, a lot of times sitting in insecure environments or on desktops, on-premise solutions. They are not cloud activated or in the cloud, which makes the ability to scale impossible. So that was again one of the biggest things for us as an organization is how do we create a single source of truth for pre-construction, knowing that we cannot solve the world's problems, and how do we make sure that we have not only a robust system that can be configured for suppliers, general contractors, trades, large and small. I mean, we have ENR, top 10 companies all the way down to startups working off our software, which is a feat in itself to have a flexible software that can meet the demands of, an entire industry. And then also, we know as much as we want to convert the entire world into one platform, there are always going to be needs for Excel. And so we also are partnering with Velixo so that Stack not only can be an integrated workflow into the ERP, but also integrate into Excel directly. And so we have a lot of unique use cases that allow us to supercharge in the right scenarios that the folks that still do need a little bit of the Excel workflow to connect back into their system. So I don't know if Jared, you want to elaborate a little bit more on some of the ways you've seen that executed.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, I mean, when we were evaluating this side of things, obviously we want everyone to be on the stack system, right? And the reality of that is some people just you're not getting that spreadsheet out of their hands, right? But they need to have something to take off. So as opposed to just saying, well, you're dead in the water, so to speak, partnering with Velixo, kind of the industry that's out there, almost I would say standard for the intact side of things, being able to just have these quantities automatically populate your spreadsheet, and then even through the same kind of connector tool and the write back functionality, I could just write this directly into my intact. I could write this into my change orders within there or wherever I might need to. Just makes it absolutely the next tier because again, the state of the union is I think it's like 60% of construction companies are still using Excel in some format. And so it's crazy just to say, no, we're ruling you out, So this is a great partnership that I'm super excited about. Right. And then I think with this, nice. Everyone's in my world now. So we're going to get into the product a little bit, and I'm pumped to show everyone kind of what Stack is, getting a live look. You heard Mike and I talk a lot about collaboration between this. And I just want to get your kind of eyes on it and play around with it a little bit. So when we first look into Stack, a couple things I always like to mention, especially to those intact users, Stack is entirely cloud-based, right? So it's always funny that we look at getting off of maybe hosted or server systems, but yet we always forget about that takeoff element, right? So this has been a fantastic partnership to have with the Intact team, but anywhere you're essentially going to be, just like you can with the accounting side, we can access all of this platform. And even very similar to Sage, it's what we call born in the cloud, right? So one of the nice things with Stack is as those updates get enhanced, I don't have to worry about calling that IT guy in to kind of have the updates rolled out. It just happens automatically. And you can see at the rate that we're updating the platform, we're not sitting there waiting for, any sort of day and then just rolling out 4 or 5 updates. To win a job, you got to be on the cutting edge. You got to be on the forefront, right? And so as soon as we make enhancements to the product, it's immediately and also gone through testing, it's immediately rolled out to your users so you guys can take advantage of whatever that functionality may be. Now, when we're also looking more granular into Stack, there's a lot of ways to see any sort of data that we have here. So the current view that I have is a list of all of these bids that I have, and they're currently organized into this bidding format. Now I can absolutely change these different tags labels to show more data, less data that I might need to, but this is a great way, especially if you have multiple estimators, to simply say, show me what I'm bidding on, maybe also show me what I'm assigned to, and I can select myself in this case, and then I'm off to the races. I can continue on working on my projects. Now, to start a couple different projects or start a new one, again, a lot of different ways. We can pull directly from the new projects page. Some users also need to have maybe templates that they use commonly, and you could be able to just right click or click on these little dots, copying those projects as many times as you need to. But basically, the home page is all going to look the same. This is where you're going to be able to update everything from a status to a bid date. The neat thing with Stack is that bid date's actually going to populate a calendar. So if we're more on the senior estimator. We're reviewing everything. We're seeing where all of our projects is going to be done. This is a great way to have a visual representation of everything that's going to happen in the next couple weeks, days, or months. Now, as we get down below, there's several fields. We talked about having the ability to go in here and add in any sort of assign to. These are any areas or any users who might need to have different roles, rights, and permissions. So in this case, I can have a actual estimator in here, as well as a cost viewer, someone who just strictly needs to look at the project, right? As we go down into this different field, you'll see several locations. These locations are going to be great for any sort of aerial retrieval or aerial imagery. Now, where a case scenario of that could be is, let's think I am a roofer, I'm a contractor who just needs to maybe do solar, or I just maybe might be in landscaping. I can actually pull in all of this aerial imagery directly from the platform. Now, as you go over into this project side, the first step, especially when we talk about disconnected systems, is obviously uploading plans. And there's so many different areas, and we can spend a ton of time of how we get a plan set or where they may come from. But I'm simply just going to take this zip folder that I have here and bring that directly into my Stack database. Now, as it goes through this, it's kind of quite neat, is you'll see it's going to start loading. And what it's doing is not just basically uploading the files like you see here. These are going to be two PDFs that I have, but underneath that, it's actually going through and breaking out every one of these pages. Kind of neat. The other cool thing is it's not giving it just those generic, like say, Staybridge Suites -01, Staybridge Suites -02. It's reading every one of the plans themselves and saying, here's going to be essentially the sheet number. Here's the sheet title to everything, right? So really easy. And what kind of I call is like the admin time that is associated with these products, right? And then also even taking that next step further, everywhere that the user is going to see these little square blue boxes, these boxes are actually the hyperlinks, right? And if you go to your estimators today and ask them how long does it take to break out a plan page, go in there and put in your own hyperlinks, they're going to tell you hours alone just on that factor, and we're doing it in just seconds, right? So just even to show you visually, here's going to be that hyperlink. I can click it on a page, and I can even pull in this page as a separate tab. Now, let's envision we're referencing any sort of details or spec sheets we might need to, and we can see here it's on the plans. You can have as many tabs as you want open, right? I can put this on another screen if I want to. Try doing that with a VPN into your, legacy system. You can't do that. You're only allowed to have one monitor, one screen open available on that remote desktop. So again, it's just allowing all of this flexibility and collaboration, regardless of wherever the users are going to be. Now, as we start to kind of continue on the talk track of we're going through and we need to go in, just finalize some of the admin things, and then we're going to get into our project takeoff. One thing I always like to say, especially on the sub side, is you may get from the GC, the upstream partner, a series of files or plans that have every single basically spec, scope of work, architectural, general, mechanical, plumbing. But you may not need that, especially if you're like a concrete contractor, just focusing on that. I can actually have the system go out and classify everything by my specific discipline. So as I need to go in here and see all of the architectural, the electrical, the general, mechanical, plumbing, structural, all of those, it's doing that for me. I'm not having to go out there and manually manipulate that data. All right. Now, getting even a little bit more granular, we're going to go into this scale, and I'm going to pull in my scale automatically. Now, the first thing that you can users will do is they maybe want to get in a quick area measurement. Maybe I'm going to get a carpet section up here, and I just want to go out and just calculate those points. And you just basically click around the drawing, double click when you're done. And if I go to my takeoff, you can see we're starting to build off that area one, right? That's one way of doing things. How we want to make it a lot faster is I'm actually going to show you this assist up here. This is great for the floor plans. So this is going to be go out system and do all my doors, windows, rooms, walls, all of my areas, right? And as it does it, you can see how fast that is. But if I zoom into here, all these different areas, it's gone out and basically done that takeoff of the entire hallway. But you can see some of the differences here is identifying double swung doors, pocket doors, elevator doors, single swung doors, walls, windows, all of these. This is an ever growing system. So you're going to see a lot more of this coming more in the future, right? Now, the cool thing from this standpoint is then I can associate, say, any sort of these windows, walls to what we refer as items or assemblies. If you're unfamiliar with items and assemblies, items are the individual components that make up of a project. So that would be your labor, your rental equipment, your studs, your 2x4, your box of nails. An assembly allows us to kind of categorize those together. So I know I'm going to use something different in this room, and we'll just do this slab on grade because a lot of people know the industry slab on grade. I can go in there and basically pull in that entire slab on grade, which will look something like, go into my assembly again. Concrete. Let's go to slab on grade. Why are we not pulling my slab in there? There we go. Foundation. So you can pull in all these different kind of metrics. Now, as I do this, you can see over on the right, I'm going to make this screen a little bit bigger so you can see. It's asking us essentially a series of questions. Well, in this case, we're counting piers out. And so it's wanting to see the height, the diameter, the bell diameter, the concrete waste factor, the vertical. So these can be entirely configurable, but these allow us to choose specific costs that are going to apply into the estimate. So let me just fill this in real quickly. 1. Oh, let's fly through this so we get some values in there. All right, perfect. And we're safe, right? So what we've just done is we've gone from basically a blank estimate, populated a few items in there. And then when we go into the actual estimate worksheet, this is where we're going to start to really drive all of that, what I call cost manipulation, essentially. So as I'm seeing here, here's going to be that area. Here's going to be the assembly that we had underneath this. Just note where you see $0 here, this is just demo data, right? So this would reflect with your pricing, your information. And the nice thing is as you build out, you fine tooth, you comb these out, you can also see some of the differences that over here, this is now bolded where it was not before. Why that is that is telling the end user that I have made an adjustment there. I have overwritten maybe what I had in my database price. Maybe I've negotiated a better rate. Maybe something, our productivity has changed, whatever the case might be. But it empowers that senior estimator to come in there and review, having more collaboration to see maybe what you've done, why you've done, and any sort of alterations from that point. All right. So I'm going to take 3 steps back to take 4 steps forward. So let me go into my other worksheet here, and I'm actually going to go into a stay bridge project that I have earlier. So let's select all of them, do that again. Stay bridge project. So in this one, this is more of a completed estimate. And I just want to show you really the power on at the end of it, where we can break out, see everything in terms of the worksheet. So awesome. In this kind of example, again, this looks very similar to what we had before, but what I want to show you is up here in views area. This allows us to just see something in different formats. If you need to see your base bid, your alternate, if I need to see by building, right? I can break out that estimate exactly how I need to be able to view that, or exactly as the upstream partner wants to be able to see. And then again, add in any additional, what we call other costs. This would be your profit, your add-ons, your markups, right? So again, I know I'm flying through a lot of this information, but I just want to give you kind of a first look into some of the areas that Stack's going to be able to help out with. One of the last things I wanted to kind of show you today is if we go back into this other project, and I go into my Brooklyn food cart pods. So this is a project that I have actually created just for Intact and that integration. And how the integration essentially works is here I have obviously a building permit, right? And then I have my accounting code all listed under here. And when the estimate's completed, because all of these fields are basically in default on your library, what I can do is just say, I'm going to export this out to Intact. And you just follow this kind of prompt to say, well, where is it going to go? What projects is it going to look like? Which one am I going to select? So here's my same Brooklyn food cart pod. And then I hit continue. And then it'll ask me if I don't have them filled out already, any sort of the cost types structures that is pulling directly from our fields, which again, you set this up once and you're good to go. Go ahead and hit export. And basically what it will look like now is over inside Intax underneath my projects field. Line this up real quick. I can see here is a list of all of my Intact projects. And going into the estimate side, here's going to be all of the estimates that we've pushed over directly from that. So if I open up this last one, kind of expanded on this, you can see it's going to be that very same format. Here's going to be the item that we had inside here, which just happened to be the procurement one. Here's going to be the unit rates with that permit. So in order to start to all the way to finish, you can see how easy it is just to basically kind of click the next button. You go from uploading plans, next you go into your takeoff, next we go over into our estimate worksheet, and then obviously finally concluding at the end with that a cost into your Intact platform. Okay. So that's everything that at least I wanted to show from the demonstration standpoint. Again, just a quick view into it. Before I kind of pass this to Mike, I just like to show the slide as well. And Mike, I'm sure you can talk a lot more about this slide, basically the different departments, different trades that we work with.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Jared. And again, we've been around 15 years or so. And from top E&R firms with hundreds and hundreds of estimators down to startups, folks have been doing this for 20, 30 years on the same OST, Plan Swift, on-prem solutions, you name it, we've worked with them. That's one of the things, being agnostic. It's both fun to say that, but it's hard to actually execute on that. So, we're fortunate enough to work for an organization that is, this is all we've done. We've lived and breathed the pre-construction world. We've built this amazing platform that can really work across organizations. I think the one caveat for all of you is that what we're exceptionally good at is takeoff oriented projects. So if you are dealing with estimates that do not require takeoffs, that's probably our single limitation. And I always like to call that out to organizations, because there are a number of you out there that I'd say if over 50% of your business is run off of estimates that don't require takeoff, that's the one piece of the ecosystem in pre-construction that we're probably not the best fit for. But again, regardless if you're a supplier just doing takeoffs, general contractor doing more lightweight kind of takeoffs and estimates, and all the way to subcontractors, you need super detailed estimates and takeoffs. We have a very flexible platform that really drives a ton of value to our customers, and you can feel free to look through our website, Google all the places to kind of get those testimonials, or give us a call, and we can always put you in touch with folks using the software today. And lastly, he was not able to join us, but Jesse is one of our channel managers that helps working with some of the resellers here and the ecosystem in general. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to him. After this, he will route you to the right folks. You'll most likely be talking to Jared at some point anyways, as he's also although he runs a team, he's our specialist here with the integration. So overall, I really appreciate everybody spending time with us today, learning a little bit about the things that we're passionate about, how we're helping the industry. And we'll pause at this point for any Q&A, any things that we want to address at this point.
Hey, Mike. Hey, Jared. Great presentation. Thank you so much. Are you guys available to hang with us just another 5 or 7 minutes for any questions that our attendees might have?
Would love to, Brian.
Okay. Well, let's take this couple of minutes just a couple of minutes for me to do a bit of advertising and for you to have the opportunity to submit a last minute question for both Mike and Jared. These guys have uh, walked the talk. We said we need to we need to have 8 or 9 minutes left at the end for a couple of announcements and then for questions. And look how they have turned that estimate of time and followed the budget. So thank you. I love the demo. Great job. We appreciate it very much. So get those questions submitted using that Q&A toolbar or button in the Zoom toolbar. And while you do that, let me just mention everybody in the Dallas-Fort Worth area is invited to a special opportunity to meet with the folks at Legible. We will be presenting at the Metroplex Practice Management Group on August 25th. This is a in-person presentation that will have 2 hours of CPE credit. The first hour is a contrarian position on the impact that artificial intelligence will have on employment in our profession. I think you'll love hearing how what we've heard is not how everybody believes, and I'm one of those who believes that this is one of the greatest job creation events ever. To hear more about that, you'll want to be at the uh, southeast corner of LBJ and Preston. That's the North Dallas Bank and Trust Building. There at 3:30, from 3:30 to 5:30. The second hour of that will be practical applications of artificial intelligence beyond just helping us write an email. And this will be in the context of the accounting back office. So I'm doing a bit of advertising. You see the RSVP address there at the bottom. They are asking $10 for guests. It is a group that CPAs in the area can join on a permanent basis, and they're gracious to allow us to include that invitation in today's presentation. One more quick advertisement on the next slide. Next week, or next month, excuse me, on the day after that presentation at the Metroplex Practice Management Group, we will have another webinar. This one is tentatively entitled Beyond the Paper Bank Statement. This is about automating the bank reconciliation process. And we just have a little bit of a change in the title there to make that more clear. If you'd like another hour of CPE credit, use that QR code, register very quickly, and then come out to meet us in August in Tennessee at the Southwest Regional CFMA conference, or later in the year down in Austin at the Lone Star Conference. Okay, Jared and Mike, I think I've got a couple of questions here. Let me start with this first question for companies that are still handing off estimates using Excel. What's the first step you'd recommend to get more connected?
I'll be curious your answer, Jared. So I'll give you mine. And I'm not an estimator. I'm in sales. I've been doing it my whole life. So I tend to be a little bit more simple with the way I think of things. But I feel the best way to do it is to challenge your vendors, folks like Stack or anybody. I know it could be anyone, but if you're looking to get off, you should be in partnership with the evaluation process. And so I always recommend people send Jared and his team, for example, here's my estimate. How would you recreate this in Stack? And that's step number one, because the estimators are, I mean, they have been successfully doing their jobs, and they're, trying to make that change is probably the hardest part of this. And if your partners and your vendors should be able to drive that confidence with that team first and foremost. So I love the simple approach of don't show me a demo, don't listen to a bunch of salespeople talk to you. Send us your estimate worksheet and see if you can the vendor can recreate it. And I know watching our teams, what Jared does, and his team can do when we're able to kind of zero in on here's how it will look in stack, and it meets a bunch of requirements, and the trade-offs are acceptable. Man, it's a lot of fun watching those companies accelerate. So I don't know, Jared, if there's more technical ways to talk about that, but that's kind of my really fun way of addressing the problem or
You
challenge.
know, I was over here chomping at the bits because I'm like, I think I got the greatest answer for that one, and it's easy. It's just call myself or Mike, right, or Jesse, which then you stole my thunder on. So I'm a little sad about that. But no, I mean, that's the reality of it, right? Is the reason is what are you using for estimating and why? When it's Excel, why are you using that? And it's typically the answer is, well, we've just been doing it this way because we've just been doing it this way. And I don't think that's ever a good answer, right? It's like in the accounting realm, like why would you stay on QuickBooks, right? There's systems out there that can make you so much faster, and you just have to be open to having that conversation. So for sure, reach out to myself, Jesse, the team here at Stack, and I mean, with a copy of your Excel, and I'd be thrilled to show you what we can help out with.
Good answers, Mike and Jared. Here's another quick one. What is if we're talking about accounting, perspectives here of creating a well-formed estimate, what does it really need in order to get to flow cleanly into Sage Intacct?
Yeah, Mike, I can take that.
Yes.
The biggest thing for me is just having your library set up, your database of items, right? If you don't have that, if you're going in the estimating and you're just basically hand keying everything in from scratch, well, that ripple effect just is not going to work, right? Because you'll have to hand key in the accounting code, the parts, the pieces, all the components, and it's really broken down in that side of things. If you have a matching what the accounting side has, going into the correct cost codes, going into the correct areas, having that good foundational database, it makes all the world of difference in that kind of side of things.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the only piece I'll add there is it's a partnership, and when there's a it's not a sequence. And if you're migrating to like a Sage Intacct, for example, like I see a lot of times organizations want to migrate to their ERP first and then migrate their estimating second. I highly advise against that practice. I think it's a thing you do in tandem just because how things get designed from one side may not translate to the other side, and doing the work together, although it's maybe more challenging because I've never had to implement ERPs. But I've heard it is not easy. But it is at the same time when it's when you're working with great companies doing it, having a full scope of all the other people that are going to be interfacing with it. It's we've just seen a lot of companies be wildly successful doing both at the same time, and it's that's my only plug in there for those who may be going through that experience or thinking about going through that experience is it's better to do it all at once instead of waiting sequentially. And that goes either way. I've seen we advise companies to not start their take off an estimating practice until they're ready to do their ERP and vice versa. It's been really successful when doing it in tandem.
Mhm.
Okay, excellent. Okay, we've got 15 seconds. What's the biggest win, biggest success story beyond time savings from uh, one of your 7,000 customers?
Oh man, it was the
I,
gosh, Jared, I forget the folks who adopted Stack or the Velixo. Remember the ones down in Florida?
yes, I will say in short, I think that the time is the biggest thing, right? Because time savings, even though means like, oh, I'm faster, I can do more estimate, it also means I'm not working to 4 a.m. There's a cost value that comes with that, meaning I don't have to have the accounting team spending hours trying to dig me out of a hole because a zero was misentered in the worksheet and it cost my company $250,000, which is case scenarios that have happened time and time again. So there's a dollar figure tied to that, but I never want to get away from that time because that time is just so important.
Okay, very good. Listen, we appreciate everybody who joined us today. Thank you, Jared. Thank you, Mike. Behind the scenes, thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Sophia. Thank you, Shirley. And join us in any of the opportunities to get together, either in person or online in the next couple of months. Until then, have a great day.